In this video, I want to reiterate the importance of understanding code flow. As you know, Ruby executes each line of code from top to bottom, one line at a time. Let's take a look at this example. We have 3 lines of code. Let's try to figure out and predict what's going to happen. On line 1, we set a variable called Tim. Tim is to hold Fred plus 1. Now, what is Fred? As you can see, line 2 sets the variable Fred to be the number 1. On line 3, we print the contents of the Tim variable to the terminal. Now, what do you think will happen when we run this code? Let's play it to find out. As you can see, we get an error message. The first thing to always look at in an error message is the line number. As we can see, this error is occurring on line 1. And the error message is undefined local variable or method Fred for main object name error. What is going on exactly? The answer lies in the understanding of code flow. On line 1, we are setting a variable called Tim to contain Fred plus 1. Now, what is Fred? It is true that on line 2, we set the variable Fred to hold the number 1. But the problem is that since Ruby executes each line of code one at a time from top down, when Ruby is executing the first line of code, line number 1, to say Tim equals Fred plus 1, as Ruby is executing that line, it does not yet know what Fred is. Now, even though as humans, we can quickly, with our eyeballs, glance and see that on the very next line, we're going to be setting this variable Fred and have it hold the number 1, but that hasn't happened yet. Because right now, Ruby is still up to line 1. And as of line 1, the variable Fred has never been established. The computer is a simple, dumb machine that all it knows how to do is follow a simple set of straightforward instructions. So when Ruby reads and executes line number 1, where it says Tim equals Fred plus 1, Ruby simply throws up its hands with an error message saying, hey, I don't know what Fred is. And this is why code flow is so important, because we can simply fix this bug by simply swapping the order of lines 1 and 2. So if we go ahead and take this Fred equals 1 and put it on top of Tim equals Fred plus 1, and now we run our code, we can see that it runs seamlessly. Because now when the computer goes through the instructions one line at a time, on line 1, we are setting the variable of Fred to hold the number 1. And then on line 2, where we say Tim equals Fred plus 1, as you know, the Yoda rule of variables is that we calculate everything to the right-hand side of the equal sign first before setting it to the variable named on the left-hand side. So Fred plus 1, since Fred is 1, Fred plus 1 would be 2. So we set on line 2 this Tim variable to hold the number 2. And then on line 3, where we print the contents of Tim to the terminal, we end up displaying the number 2 to the terminal, which is what we indeed see below.